You're listening to the Cambridge Insider Podcast. On today's episode, host Mariah interviews host Stephen on his recent marketing trip with our CEM partners to Vietnam and South Korea. Today's episode is sponsored by the King's Academy. The King's Academy offers a college preparatory curriculum with the goal of developing God's best for each student. Highly qualified teachers who are passionate about their subject will challenge and support all students. TKA promotes academic, artistic, and athletic excellence as part of a balanced and joyous education. Thanks for listening.
Cambridge Insider Podcast time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cambridge Insider Podcast. As always, my co-host, Mariah Thompson. Mariah, how are you?
I'm doing well and enjoying this fall weather here in Texas. Finally feeling like fall. Yesterday was 85. Today is 65. So we're here in fall.
Mariah came onto the podcast this morning and was very outspoken about how cold it is in Texas. And I asked her what the temperature was, and she said 65. So for those that live anywhere other than Texas, 65 is decent, summer weather, to be honest with you. Anything you've been up to since I've been away?
Since you've been away? No, it's been same ship here. In life, yes. I got a new car, but on Cambridge side of things are pretty much the same.
Good. Cambridge side of things are moving swiftly ahead. It's crazy to think that we are on our way to Thanksgiving as we record this. Students that are here for the very first time get to experience the American Thanksgiving, which I think many of them are excited about. I mean, many of our host families are excited to be able to share that tradition with some of their students that they host as well. So that's exciting.
Yes, if you are a host and you follow us on social media, but also there is a host family group page on Facebook, you can just email the host team. They'll get you connected. They have a lot of good resources on teaching your student about Thanksgiving. I know they just posted stuff about Halloween as well, how to teach some American culture there. So if you're a host that listens to this and you're not plugged in, get plugged in because there's a lot of helpful tips on that.
Absolutely, and it's just another way to share a little bit of the U.S. culture and to be able to bridge that gap, right, between different cultures. This is what it's all about. This is why we get involved in international education and in hosting students. So that's an awesome initiative. Can we put some of those details up on our show notes as well?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, yeah. Perfect.
Speaking of bridging cultures, you just came back from a trip, which is what we're going to talk about today.
That is what we're going to talk about. And I did just come back from a trip. I am still a little bit jet lagged. Woke up last night. I arrived back from Vietnam and Korea on, Friday? Mm-hmm. Friday afternoon. So last night woke up at 2 a.m. just wide awake. So that's part of the downside, I suppose, to traveling. But all in all, it was a incredibly successful first rendezvous back into our major markets with some of our school officials. So really excited to chat about it today.
Are you the type of person in jet lag to get up and work it off, or did you just sit there for hours until it was time?
I go both ways. My biggest challenge at home is I have a golden retriever, so he sleeps right next door in his own little bed, and next to the bed. So as soon as I wake up, he's up and he's like, as the day started. So I've got to be very, very mindful of what's happening in the house. So the last night I was just trying to sort of lay it off, and eventually after about an hour, maybe hour 30 minutes, I managed to fall back asleep, but then woke up at 6 with just felt like I hadn't slept at all. So that's, again, these are first world problems.
You have the energy to tell us all about the trip on this podcast then.
That's it. Exactly. Shoot.
Well, first off, let's kick off with some good things. They're all good things, but let's kick off with some fun things. What was your favorite thing you ate while you were there? So you were in Vietnam and Korea for this trip, which she went with Cambridge. It wasn't a fun trip. They're all fun. Everyone, you understand what I mean. A work trip versus a leisure trip. But
correct. I love that we kick off on food. Maybe I should first give a little context just to explain to our listeners. So we do, traditionally, we have for many, many years taken school officials abroad to specifically China and then specifically to Vietnam and Korea on separate trips as well. Really for them to be able to get exposure to those cultures, to meet some students, to meet some agents, and really do a lot of that, a lot of the brand work and the marketing work that we do digitally today and that our sales teams do on the ground. This is a great way to close that loop and for our school officials to be able to speak face to face and to really give people a sense of what their school is all about. Of course, with everything that's happened through COVID, we had to stop those trips for several years. This was the first time in 3.5 years since 2019 that we had school officials on a trip in China, and we had school officials on a trip in Vietnam and Korea. So incredibly exciting. I just want to thank all of our teams abroad, because to run such incredibly successful trips, to get all the logistics behind it going, and to make it a memorable experience for not only agents and students that get to meet these school officials, but for the school officials themselves. I know the hard work that goes in, behind the scenes. So I want to really thank our China, our Vietnam, and our Korea teams on that. I want to get back to your question though, because the food was for me very, very exciting. I had been to Korea before. I'd been to China many, many times. I've never been to Vietnam. So I was excited about a couple of things. Every meal is just an experience. If you love food, like Mariah knows that I do, every single meal was truly an experience. And if you've had the privilege of going to these different cultures and experiencing food like this, just vibrant colors, flavors, spices, smells, it really was incredible. I would say in Vietnam, I was very, very excited about eating a dish called bun cha. I hope I have that pronunciation correct, but bun cha is essentially like a noodle dish with a fish sauce, vinegar type of, sauce that they put over it, a lot of fresh herbs and, some bean sprouts. And then they put these little pork, pieces of sort of marinated pork on top. If what I explained to you excites you, doing it in person, being able to eat it, it blew my mind. It was honestly, I built it up so much that it could easily have been a disappointment, and it wasn't. So I was super, super excited about that. But again, across the whole of Vietnam, there was terrific food. And then, of course, when we went to Korea, where I've been before, something like a Korean barbecue is, the whole atmosphere and process around it is exceptional. We managed to have a couple of those while we were there with our team, and it was exceptional. The food was really, really good.
I know it's like 9 a.m. here, but I'm like, I could have a bowl of noodles right now. I wanted to ask that though, because I wanted to paint the picture of what you guys are doing while you're there, and it's really submerging yourself into culture, which is a different part of our marketing strategy that we have as we offer. Totally offer all the digital, and that is a need and necessity. But this is just an extra layer that we think is also important, is being able to go in person and to market your school and to market your brand, but also to dive into their culture as well. So you can have a better understanding who you're marketing to, and why it is important to have people like Cambridge help you market to them, because we know their culture, we know what they're doing. And our team lives it. So it's a good way for us to connect schools in a deeper level to be able to market. Now, you talked about this a little bit about getting that face-to-face marketing experience. And one of the things I think is really cool is that schools have opportunity to meet face-to-face with students. Can you describe and tell us like what that's like, how that's set up?
Absolutely. So, typically the types of events, and it doesn't always work like this, so I'm going to be very sort of simplistic in it, but typically the types of events that our school officials would do across all three of those markets, China, Vietnam, and Korea, would be presentation style. So they have the opportunity to give a brief, presentation. Sometimes it would be translated. Other times the English level or the understanding of the English language is good enough from the audience that we don't need to translate it. But we obviously have somebody in person there to be able to help if that's required. But to be able to give a presentation, maybe 15, 20, 25 minutes sometimes, about their program, about their school, about their area that the school is located in, about the US culture. Sometimes that presentation is not just about the school, but maybe a little something like a demo class that gives students a feel of what it would be like to attend a certain program. And then after that, we give the opportunity for schools to meet parents, but specifically students in person. So they've given a presentation, they've told these potential students what their program is all about. Afterwards, they can sit for quote unquote an interview where a school official can meet with a potential student that would be interested. They can offer an immediate acceptance if they feel that the student's credentials are in line and they want to offer that acceptance. They can offer a conditional acceptance, or they can simply just have that conversation and sort of urge and encourage that student to send in a full application. What I got from that, and what I've gotten from that over several years of doing this, specifically it was reinforced on this trip, is a couple of things, right? Students, again, get that face-to-face interaction with the school official. They really get a feel for what the student support and the care and the in-person experience would be like going to a school in America. So it's so incredibly important for students to experience that, because we really, really do see that as that final leap of faith that students need to take. I think from a school official's part, of course, it gives them the opportunity to meet and to present and to interview potential students, which of course increases your brand awareness, increases your application rate and your enrollments. But what it also gives them is it really gives them, like you mentioned, Mariah, a sense into the culture and a sense into what these students are really about. So many of the school officials, again, on this trip, as we were going through and interviewing and doing presentations, I think every single one of the 6 different schools that were on the Vietnam Korea leg came to me and said, we need to change from our school side how we present our school. We need to change how we look after students, because coming here and speaking to them, I understand the culture a little bit better. I understand what it takes to be an international student a little bit better. And because of that, I really want to make the following 4 or 5 changes to my program. And that is invaluable, because if they can understand that and they can have a deeper understanding of what the student and the culture means, they can really provide a program that supports that. And when you provide that program, and we've spoken about this in the past, but when you provide a program and a host community and a school community and a teacher community that supports international students, guess what? They're going to be successful. They're going to want to come back. Agents are going to go, this is a great school where I want to send my kids. So that was an invaluable experience. And, we met so many great students. I've seen some of those acceptances and enrollments come through just a couple of days after the trip, which is always awesome to see. So, those connections that they made were super worthwhile.
I was so glad to hear that these school officials are coming back excited about having an international program and motivated to make it better for their school. So that's exciting. That's a plus on, obviously a plus on our end, but it's definitely a plus on the school's investment. They're investing in the future of their programs. So exactly. It's good to hear that it's a win-win for everybody. Now, another part of the trip is meeting with agencies. Can you obviously explain what that was like, but can you explain a little bit to our listeners what the role of an agency is in international recruitment, like why they are important to meet with, and what they stand in for us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to try and simplify it, because again, we try and keep these pods on time. So typically across all 3 of our markets, we work with these great agencies that are represented across, China, Vietnam, and Korea. These agencies typically represent hundreds and hundreds of students that come to them in the search of either additional, ESL classes or tutoring, but also obviously come to them, looking for international education opportunities. We partner with many of these agencies. We are the only US-based partner that is rated A+ with all of the agencies that we work with. We have a terrific relationship with all of these agencies. So what we do on these trips is we get these agencies who have access and who, have thousands and thousands of students signed up with them. We actually meet with these agencies and these agents who represent these kids, present to them, speak to them, interview them, give them additional information, give them additional marketing materials as a way to brand and market our school program. Because again, when an agency is sitting in Vietnam and goes, hey, I've got a 9th grade student or potential 9th grade student that wants to go to the US, which school should I send them to? When you've just spoken to that agency and you've been able to in person explain to that agent why your school program is so important, it's very likely that agent's going to go, hey, I met a school last week. The school official, the head of school, or the director of enrollment management was an incredible person. We had a great lunch together. We spoke for 20, 25 minutes about their program and about how they can support my student. it's very likely you're going to send your kid there, or you're going to have your kid apply to that school. So we did a lot of those agency meetings. And the great thing about agency meetings and agency presentations is you as a school official, you're presenting to, at a time, 35, 40 agents. Those 35, 40 agents each represent 35, 40 students themselves. So it's multiplied in terms of the reach that you get when you do present to these agents. The market has changed, and we speak a lot about the digital way in which we do things and marketing direct to students. But that agency model certainly still is very strong and still is in place. So it's a great opportunity for schools to be able to really brand themselves and to give agencies exposure to them after agencies have seen the digital outreach. So agencies would typically on social media see, this is a great school I've heard about in Texas as an example. I'm interested in potentially sending a student there. They get to meet that head of school in person. It's just that additional layer of making sure that this is a memorable program that people want to be able to go to.
Awesome. It sounds like both meeting the students and the agencies has long-lasting impact on a program, which we've talked about as you explained it, we talked a little bit the impact of what these trips are. If you could just give like one bold statement of like, this is the impact, why someone should want to go on these trips and why these important. If it's a few sentences, that could be a few sentences too, but like in a short summary, what is the long-lasting impact on attending a trip like this?
Of course, I would say it's really about trying to just think about one word, but really about ingraining your program on this new culture, giving them an experience of what it's like. And nobody can do that better. I think people that worked remotely during the pandemic and have now gone back to the office have maybe got that sense of what it means to be in person again. And that's really what we're trying to transmit here. Sometimes when you look at an ad or you look at some digital marketing, that's great and it gives you that excitement, but really meeting somebody in person is just that next level. And that's what we're trying to give them an experience of. And it's all about cultures. It's really all about feeling safe, feeling secure, feeling excited about a different culture. Whether that be the agent or the student feeling excited about going to America, or whether that be our school officials feeling excited about hosting students and getting to know students from different cultures. So we really want to bridge that gap by getting people in person and sitting down again, enjoying a bowl of food together, and really being able to find out a little bit more about one another.
Awesome. I love it. Just so our listeners know too, as Stephen was in Vietnam and Korea, we had a team also in China at the same time. So there's also opportunity to go to China as well. But I had opportunity to see some of the pictures and videos that you guys had when you were there. And it doesn't seem like you guys are just doing presentations the whole time. What are some fun things that you guys got to do as well, which was in the mix of meeting with agencies, but if there was anything else that you guys got to do on the trip that besides presentations?
Absolutely. So, there's obviously the work side of things and really meeting with people in person, and we try and make that the centerpiece as it should be, meeting with students and agencies, and also meeting with our sales teams. We have a sales team that represents so many of our schools. It's great for them to be able to speak to schools, gain insights into how do I present the school? What makes a school special? And guess what? When they are riding on a train in Shanghai together, the school official and our sales team, they get to share some of these insights. So that's incredibly valuable. The other thing that we did, and I'll get to a little bit of the fun, but the other thing that we did that I do just want to mention is while we're there on site, we get to shoot some promotional marketing content as well. So we get our school officials on the ground in these different countries to shoot some promotional stuff, whether that just be a minute blurb or a minute testimonial on what your school program is about, whether that be something about, you've just met with X agency and it's been a great experience. We really get them to shoot some promotional stuff that we can then repurpose and use on some of our digital platforms as well. So that's a key part that we're going to, continue to make a central part of these trips, which is terrific. Of course, we want school officials that come all the way from the US and fly very far to get there to experience the culture. Because again, it's going to give them that insight into what it means to look after a student from that country. So we try and give them at least a little bit of downtime when they can experience the culture, where they can go to different street markets, as an example. One thing that we did in Vietnam, we went to different street markets where, school officials can do a little bit of shopping, they can taste some local delicacies, but they can just get a feel for what it is like to walk around these markets in the middle of Vietnam. There were some beautiful temples that we visited in Korea. That was certainly one of the highlights, where school officials were able to go to one of these temples, really experience a little bit of what it means like to be, a local and perhaps, partake in some of what it means to live in and around some of these beautiful temples. So those are just some of the experiences we give them. Probably one of the more memorable things on the Korea trip as well is that we were able to, in Seoul, go, up a cable car to one of the highest points, in the city and just look down. So it's a similar experience to going up the Empire State in New York City, and you can look over the whole city. We did a similar thing in Seoul, South Korea, and you're sort of struck by how big, how intense, a city like that is. And it really gives you you sort of stand there in awe a little bit about, the experience that you've just had. So those are just some of the things that we did. Obviously, if there are specific requests from schools and they want to see specific things, I know that our team in China were able to fortunately go and see the Great Wall of China, which is an incredible experience. I had the privilege of doing that previously. So our trip that just went, they were able to do that, which just gives you an idea of some of the culture that you're going to experience while you're there.
Well, that sounds amazing. I can't wait to one day go. I think that it's in the works and sometime in the future. We've talked about it a little bit. So I'm hoping to be able to get there and to experience it as well.
Absolutely. I just one final big thank you to all of our schools that went to China on the 2 separate legs that they did there, to all of our schools that went on the Vietnam and the Korea trip, and all of our Cambridge Network staff. Again, for all their hard work. We met some incredible students. We met some wonderful agents that are just a great part of the Cambridge Network. And to all of you, this is you guys make it happen. It's awesome to be a part of such an experience. If you are interested, if you listen to this and went, that would be a great boost to my international program, chat to us. It's part of our Cambridge Enhanced Marketing offering. We want to get schools there in person, and we typically invite our Cambridge Enhanced Marketing partners to be able to attend these trips. So, shoot us a note, shoot us an email, and we can certainly at least have a conversation about that. Mariah, I know that you've spoken a lot. Any sort of final thoughts, from your side?
I have no final thoughts. I'm in awe of the trip. That's it.
To all of our listeners, we appreciate you guys. Remember to like, listen, and subscribe, and we'll catch you around the next episode of the Cambridge Insider Podcast. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Cambridge Insider Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to never miss an episode. For more Cambridge updates, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Have a great week and stay connected.